What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Vanguard. Sorry, I thought you were going to do the intro, and then I realized that I was unmuted. So what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button if you just are tuning in. It's going to be an awesome, spicy live stream this evening. Taking your guys' advice, doing some more evening time shows. Hope you guys are enjoying that. Either way, how you doing, Zach?
Yeah, fucking excited to come back on the live stream. For the longest time, Gavin and I joked that if everybody hated us and our show just fell apart, that we would start an OnlyFans. So in that proper tradition, today we are about to unhinge our jaws and perform the sloppiest grim job you motherfuckers have ever seen live on air. So get ready for some explicit content.
Absolutely. Hope you guys are pumped. But yeah, this is going to be a fun show. Oh, happy birthday, Alex. Wow, happy birthday, Alex. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've really been enjoying seeing your comments in the chat in the last couple of weeks, ever since you've been tuning into the Vanguard. So thank you so much for the super chat, and happy birthday to you, Alex.
Yeah, shout out to you, Alex. Happy birthday. Hope it's a good one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. And also thank you so much, America Wasp, Dieter McBusiness, first super chat of the live stream. Sorry, I shouted out Alex first because I saw that it was his birthday and I just, hit his comment. But you do get the distinction of being the first super chat of the live stream. So thank you so much, Dieter McBusiness. Really appreciate that. And yeah, we were just talking a little bit about the Chiefs game. We won against the Jaguars, who Zach just informed me is the Florida NFL team. So either way, do you want to talk a little bit about how that went, Zach?
Yeah, sure. They're actually one of Florida's 3 NFL teams. They've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Miami Dolphins, and then also the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that's all the NFL teams in Florida. But anyway, yeah, they're a fucking terrible football team. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they just cannot. Honestly, it reminds me a lot about watching the Chiefs back in the day when they just didn't have a quarterback that could execute in the red zone at all. They picked it up and got a little better throughout the rest of the game. The Chiefs had some really bad injuries. Juju Smith-Schuster took a massive shot to the head, stiffened up like a board, had to be taken off the field, couldn't come back for the rest of the game. But yeah, pretty good performance by the Chiefs. Moving on.
Yeah, I saw we won pretty handily, right?
We won by like 10. We should have spanked them by a lot more than that, but we let them crawl back in the latter part of the game.
Interesting.
Harrison also missed an extra point.
Really? Yeah, the kicking goal or whatever?
It's weird. Harrison Butker actually just set a Chiefs franchise record like 2 weeks ago for the longest field goal, like 65, 67 yards, something stupid, crazy like that. But he keeps missing these extra fucking points. It's like a chip in, and he'll shank it. It's happened like twice since he's been back from his injury. Never used to happen. So I'm worried about his ankle a little bit because Butker is an all-star kicker, and it's massively frustrating to watch a great kicker go out there and botch a fucking extra point.
Yeah, that's a real bummer. At least they won, though. That's all that matters. Also, happy birthday to you, Yana. His birthday was a couple days ago, and whose birthday I forgot to shout out on the podcast. So happy birthday to you as well.
What, dropping the ball over here. What a fucking embarrassment.
Just Jesus. Like Harrison Butker. Oh, wait, he missed the goal. Never mind. That was a bad analogy.
Gavin over here struggling to keep up with the sports card, but we appreciate his nuanced approach to the game. Thoughts on human? Oh yes, we are going to get into that, Brian. Buckle on up. We'll address that. Basically, I like Mike a lot, and I don't really agree that the attack on her was like out of line.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of unnecessarily unproductive, in my opinion. I was like, I don't really understand. I don't think. I mean, Mike just put out a tweet being like, "What? It sucks that the student loan debt's not going to go through anymore." So I don't really understand what the drama about that was. I think Brianna Joy Gray was 100% correct to point out in the first place that Biden. That it wasn't probably going to go through and that it was likely going to get struck down and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know about all that. Anyway, we have some other stuff to get into, but thank you so much for the super chat, Brian. Really do appreciate that. Also, thank you, Alex, for the $4.99. Mike can be cringe with his Chappelle takes, but I like him. I don't know what takes in particular you'd be talking about. Just, I imagine Mike called out Dave Chappelle's transphobia, which I think was probably the correct response. Dave Chappelle does seem like a TERF. So I might actually agree with Mike's take on that. I haven't seen that specific segment that you're referencing though, Alex.
Yeah. I don't know what specific Dave Chappelle take you're talking about. I mean, I imagine it had something to do with the fact that the guy was hosting SNL recently. But I didn't watch that clip.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I have to check that out. And yeah, I mean, I support Dave Chappelle's free speech as well. I'm not saying the guy should be censored. I think he should absolutely have the right to say whatever he wants, but I also have the right to use my free speech and call it out for being problematic or bigoted or whatever. So yeah, no one's advocating for censorship of Dave Chappelle. I don't. If that's what Mike was doing, then I disagree with that. I didn't see that segment. Um, so yeah, you of course you fit in here. I mean, everyone fits in our audience. We're proud to have a diverse audience ideologically.
Up on everything to make sure I didn't miss anything from Mike's Twitter. But yeah, look, we've been saying for a while that there was very unlikely that fucking Biden student debt shit was going to go. I was actually pretty skeptical about this the whole time. Then it went all the way up, and they did pass it, and now it's come back around. So I'm trying to catch up with everybody. We're off to a little bit of a slow start because I'm trying to answer this question. But anyway, shout out to you,
Yeah, thanks so much, Alex. And yeah, let me know what specific take you were talking about as far as Dave Chappelle goes, Alex. I'd be interested to know what you're talking about. But generally, yeah, I think Mike's a really nice guy. I think his heart's in the right place. I don't think he's a grifter. I don't agree with him on everything, but for the most part, I don't really have a problem with Mike. Also, thank you so much, Damned Wokester, for the $5. That's a good name. Thoughts on the Missouri recreational cannabis bill? It was surprising to see that so many people voted against it. Yeah, it was definitely closer than I expected, right? I mean, Missouri is definitely a red state, but I like to call it more of like a libertarian red, where people here are really concerned about their like freedom, like, I want to smoke some weed and shoot my guns. And it's not like you can ride around without a seatbelt here in Missouri, fun fact. Um, so in some ways it is like more of a libertarian red versus like Kansas, which is more of like a Puritan nanny state kind of red state. So I thought it was going to be like at least like 60-40 in favor of cannabis, and it was a little bit closer than that. So I was surprised as well. I don't know why specifically that was, but I do know that there were even some progressives that oddly came out against this bill. Like the progressive mayor of St. Louis came out and said that um, that we shouldn't vote for it because it was going to give the corporations control over the industry, and it was basically a big handout to big pharma, which is fair to say, and that's fair to point out, but I still think it's ridiculous to argue against legalizing cannabis, given that the continued criminalization of the substance will only result in more people being incarcerated and caught up in a racist and unjust legal system. So that aside, you can acknowledge that. But guess what? So every other drug is also under control of corporations and big pharma. Acetaminophen is controlled by Tylenol. That doesn't mean it should be illegal, right?
Yeah, I would just add that I think a lot of another part of what happened here was that really Missouri cracked down hard on people being able to vote in this election. And I think that people who are going to be more likely to show up and vote for something like a recreational cannabis piece of legislation, maybe single issue voters, maybe people that in a more progressive state like Colorado or Illinois, where they have same day registration, it would be a lot easier to get those big numbers because people will show up. It's the day to vote. Hi, I want to vote. In Missouri, they have all these hoops that you have to jump through, as we went into on our election night coverage. Like, for example, you have to have an actual Missouri driver's license. Say you have your Illinois driver's license, but you've moved into Missouri and registered to vote. They will not accept it. You have to give them like a U.S. passport. Not a lot of people have a U.S. passport, so you can either like go and get like a temporary ID from the DMV, which takes about 6 hours of waiting in line. All these different kinds of things that they made it. It's like an extra barrier, whereas those barriers are not typically going to be as impactful to, maybe those rigid old school voters. Typically the older demographic is the demographic of people that are more skeptical about weed legalization. They're also more likely to have all their documentation squared away because they've been voting in the same place for longer than young people who are typically more transient, especially in the current economy. So yeah, I would say that all those things played a role into it, but thank God we can let bygones be bygones. They fucking passed.
Yeah, praise God Almighty. And I think February is when it goes into effect. So Zach and I will be rolling up to the dispensary and smoking fat. That's for sure. Probably won't do a podcast that day. We'll be a little bit too faded. But yeah, it's a day to it'll be a day to celebrate, man. Zach and I have been connoisseurs of cannabis for quite some years, but this will be the first time in our entire lives we've lived in a legal state, which is pretty insane to think about. Again, given the fact that we've both been smoking for like what 10 years now, like
Yeah, it'll be nice to not have to have the paranoia of fucking driving around with like, like I just there was a time in my life where I probably just rode dirty for like fucking 5 years. Like Gavin can attest to this. Like my car was just dirty as fuck. Like I would have like a zip in the car at all times, and I'm just like fucking around, like not caring. I'm like, all right, where the fuck else am I gonna keep in my fucking apartment complex, bitches? If it smells like weed too much in here, as I fucking now it'd just be smooth sailing, just like no worries going across the town. Can't fuck around and go to the Kansas side. Those fucking evil bastards, I imagine, are going to try and crack down on anybody that dares to cross the state line with a little bit of bud on them, because now they'll be probably one of the last real like holdout states, and they're surrounded almost by legal weed in the middle of the country, like Colorado and Missouri, both sides of I-70. Like, anyway.
interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, damned wokester. Really appreciate the $5. Thank you also once again, Alex, for the $4.99. Do you think DeSantis will, if he becomes president, crack down on weed? I mean, I don't think he's gonna like reverse the. If he became president, I don't think he's gonna like do an executive order that all the states that have already legalized it have to like roll back their legalization. But he definitely wouldn't be like a pro weed president, right? Like in no way do I think he would ever like decide to legalize or decriminalize or anything like that. But I don't think he would like roll back the states that have already decided to do that democratically. What do you think, Zach?
No, I think that's 100% the move. It's so fucking politically impossible to maintain a national base of support if you're coming after something like weed, and particularly if you're a Republican that's whining about states' rights all the time, and then coming in and saying like, I want to crack down on your state's rights to make your state's decisions. That's just not going to fly with enough of the like independent Republican adjacent people who actually believe in the sales pitch that they're giving about small government and states' rights or whatever. So it would just be it would just kind of fly in the face of that. And also outside of it being politically unpopular, I just don't think that it's a battle that DeSantis would wage in the same way that Donald Trump didn't choose to wage it. And I don't honestly, I don't think any president that's smart enough or savvy enough to maneuver themselves into the office of presidency is going to be willing to sacrifice so much just to go after weed. And on the other final point I'll make about this is that Ron DeSantis is nothing if not a capitalist, right? And the only reason that they don't make weed fucking federally legalized at this point is because of the massive amounts of money that's given to them by pharmaceutical companies and big booze and the Philip Morris's, even though I don't think that's technically the name of the company anymore, but you guys know what I'm talking about, the like fucking old tobacco groups. They were for the longest time very anti-weed. Now that's starting to fucking change, and so I just think it would also just be a bad business decision. Like he would get big business to turn on him, like even in a state like Kansas, there are plenty of people who consider themselves conservative and still want legal weed, maybe just not quite enough to pass a vote on it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But don't get me wrong, the dude's very anti-weed, right? Like I think he has some quote out there about how like it should remain illegal because of the putrid odor in Florida. So, definitely not in any way a pro weed president, not in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's definitely fair to say. Also, thank you so much, Dina, for the $4.99. Mike lashed out and called RBN propagandist for the GOP. That's absurd on his face and sounds like a smear to me. Yeah, I didn't see that specific comment. If he said that, I disagree with that. We've had the folks from RBN on our stream multiple times. Definitely don't agree with them on everything. Definitely, coming at things from a slightly different perspective, but I don't think it's fair to call them propagandists for the GOP. So yeah, I definitely disagree with that. But thank you so much for the $4.99, Dina.
Yeah, I would disagree that they're propagandists for the GOP, just like I would disagree that Mike Figueredo is like some kind of a racist. I mean, clearly he was going after them because they, never challenged Jimmy Dore, and yet they're extremely vicious and come down on everybody who doesn't, clap back at the commentators that they don't like, but they will never, ever, ever air a single fucking criticism of Jimmy Dore, even though he goes on Tucker Carlson and he has people like fucking Jackson Hinkle on, who kicks it with Jordan Peterson and talks about how the globalists are coming over. Like, that's a real like fucking racist dog whistle. But I never heard any clamoring about that. So I imagine that's where Mike is coming from. I would probably agree with like half of the criticisms that he's raising.
Yeah. Also, speaking of Jackson Hinkle, did you see that Jackson's out here simping for Rick Caruso? Rick Caruso. Let's take a look at this because it's funny because when Cenk Uygur endorsed Rick Caruso, Jimmy Dore went nuclear, and correctly so. We also did, and we're like calling out his bullshit and saying like, this is crazy, bro. Like, you're literally supporting a Republican pro-police fascist. But here's Jackson Hinkle, who's Jimmy Dore's right-hand man. You know what I'm saying? How is it that Florida counted 8 million ballots in one night, but Los Angeles can't even manage to count 600,000 in 3 days? Give me a break. I didn't meet a single person who voted for Karen Bass. Something's fishy going on here. And he also said on election day that he was actually going to vote for Rick Caruso, and that he did vote for Rick Caruso. So yeah, come get your boy, Jimmy. This is your right-hand man, your heir apparent, out here taking the exact same position that your arch nemesis Cenk Uygur does, and who you're more than happy to call out for. So yeah, it's really just an illustration of how hypocritical he is, and the fact that he has no actual values and only cares about people stroking his cock, his tiny little shriveled up penis.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if Jimmy secretly voted for Rick Caruso, or just didn't vote at all in that race. So yeah. Maybe there. Yeah, but like, I didn't meet a single person that voted for Karen Bass. LOL. You clearly didn't go out and talk to people at all, because the woman got a fuck ton of votes. Is like, every single one of those is fake. Like, it's just crazy how he knows who his audience is, so he has to immediately go into the fucking election denialism, and it's very funny. You see a lot of people who have pivoted a little bit to make every single piece of left-wing content for a right-wing audience. Like, this is like the one thing they won't shut the fuck up about, because they're like, oh my gosh, like they're doing ballots boxes. Oh no, they can't count things. It's like, yeah, we know the real reason why we can't fucking count ballots in this country. It's because all 50 states have 50 different horseshit laws about elections. If we wanted to standardize that, I would be the first person to say that's a great fucking idea. You know who'd be the last person to say that's a great idea? Every single one of the GOPers in Congress and the Senate that has the actual power to do this, and wants to sow doubt about our election. So look, you don't have to lecture me that the way we do fucking elections is horseshit in this country. But people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, is the old expression. When the people who are literally fucking pretending to be the most concerned about this are also the ones holding up any legislation that would alleviate that fucking problem.
Absolutely. LOL. I just think it's kind of funny. With Jackson, like, it's just so blatant, and it's just more than anything funny because we were absolutely vindicated. I remember the first time we called out this piece of shit and called him a right winger. People were like, "That's a smear. You're just calling an anti-imperialist leftist a right winger." And now look at this fucking shit. 100% right, as always. Keeping it real here at the Vanguard. Either way, that's a bit of a side tangent. Wasn't really planning on getting off on that, but thank you also so much, Brian, for the 199. DeSantis might increase penalties for other drugs. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. The dude is as right wing as it gets, and definitely when it comes to the issue of like drug legalization, he's no ally of that movement whatsoever. Total fascist.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. If it seems like collectively as a society, so many of us have just like come to the conclusion and understand that the drug war was a fucking massive failure. And I don't know. It's interesting because I could see how he would politically try and maneuver that, right? He would talk about how drug overdoses are ravaging rural communities. He would talk about how fentanyl is a huge problem and we're getting it from China. And then it's like, oh, we need to throw down massive fucking penalties for anybody that's caught with Chinese fentanyl or whatever the fuck they would call it, to try and drum up some hysteria and get people panicked about it. But we know that's not going to work, right? We know that loftier penalties do not, prohibit the flow of drugs, right? The reward is too high for people who are too desperate to make some money when they can't make money anywhere else. And also, what you do is you just put people who largely need treatment into jail and treat them as criminals. So I hope that doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be like fucking shocked if he went down that rabbit hole. Absolutely not.
Right. Anyway, thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate it as always. Do you want to get into our first story? Oops. What's up, Tyler? Shout out to you as well. Do you want to get into our first story? I figure we can start by talking a little bit about Jimmy Dore calling out Ryan Grimm.
Yeah, I saw that halal flow clip. Fucking absolutely deranged. We literally had Ryan Grimm on the show not that long ago to talk about fucking Ukraine. But again, this is Jimmy Dore's recipe, right? He just needs to create a villain out of these people, and it be damned what the fuck is the actual serious criticism to be lobbed. But yeah, we can go ahead and play this because it's absolutely fucking batshit.
Yeah, and honestly, like I even reached out to Ryan Grimm because I was so confused about Jimmy's commentary here, because I was like, this is just so like obviously on its face incorrect and such an obvious blatant lie that I was like, am I missing something? Like at some point, did you say something that would lead Jimmy to have this? Nope. So let's take a look before we get too into this. And we can break it down. But I mean, I'm genuinely interested because I know we probably have some Jimmy Dore simps in the chat. We might even have Jimmy Dore himself in the chat. What's up, Jimmy? Is this one of your sock puppet accounts? Is this one of your fucking burner accounts? You admitted to having multiple. Anyway, what's up, Jimmy? Please let us know what your honest defense of this is. I'm genuinely interested because I can't. And we've defended Jimmy Dore before. You know, I think it's kind of annoying when people tone police the guy, right? I'm genuinely interested in what your opinion on this is, because I cannot see this in any other way than just a complete and utter intentional perversion of reality and of the truth, so that it can fit your bullshit narrative. That's what I'm saying. Like I just cannot come up with any way to spin this that's not just a complete and utter lie. Also, what's up, Jimmy? Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, so yeah, let's take a quick look here and then we can break this down. Because again, I was just genuinely confused at first. There's valid criticisms to be made of Ryan Grimm. We've made them. We've disagreed with Ryan in the past. He's not above criticism. Of course, nobody is. But this is just cooked up. This is just a totally cooked up smear, in my opinion. So let's take a look here.
Of course, it came from someone from fucking Breaking Points, Ryan Grimm from The Intercept. He says, I don't know if you saw this, but Russia just announced it's withdrawing from Kherson, which is a massive defeat for them. Now, why did Ryan Grimm say that? He's paid by Pierre Omidyar, who wants the Ukraine war. And so he's making it look like the progressives were wrong to send that letter. That's what that is. He says, hey, Russia just announced a huge defeat. Maybe you shouldn't have said that's what. So he's signaling to his billionaire owner that and the military industrial complex that they're doing the right thing. See, I'm telling her it was bullshit to ask for peace in Ukraine. That's what Ryan Grimm is doing there. Just in case you missed it, that's what that is. And then he asks her about, what's the progressive voice on the debate over war funding? So he should have said, why are you guys funding Nazis? Why are you guys betraying your progressive base and demoralizing them? He doesn't say any of that. He actually is upset that she didn't want to fund them, or maybe for a second wanted peace. So he's doing the bidding of his owner, which is Pierre Omidyar. That's what Ryan Grimm does. And he always lies to his readers.
Go ahead.
So aside from
And then this is a clip from Ryan Grimm at the press pool in the, my blanket, the press
room.
Yeah, for the press briefing, asking Jin Psaki about this very issue. So anyway, that's what this clip segues into.
the request for weapons, President Zelensky has also requested that the U.S. be more involved in negotiations toward a peaceful resolution to the war. What is the U.S. doing to push those negotiations forward?
Well, one of the steps we've taken, a significant one, is to be the largest provider of military and humanitarian and economic assistance in the world, to put them in a greater position of strength as they go into these negotiations. We also engage and talk to the Ukrainians on a daily basis. And the president and this national security team has rallied the world in being unified in their opposition to the actions of President Putin. So those are the steps we're taking. We also engage oftentimes before and after any conversations that any of these global leaders are having with both Russians and Ukrainians, and encourage them to make sure they're engaging with Ukrainians directly.
Would Zelensky be empowered by the United States to reach an agreement with Russia and have U.S. sanctions released as a result?
Well, he's the leader of Ukraine, so he's empowered to have a negotiation with Russia, and we're here to support those efforts. Again, I'm not going to get ahead of a negotiation, but we are here to support those efforts. We discuss and have conversations with him, with his team on a daily basis.
Yeah, that sounds like he was really out here cheerleading for fucking war. And there's so many things to break down in here. One, Jimmy loves to bring up Piero Midyar, but he will not tell you who the fuck funds the Jimmy Dore show. He says it's all small dollar donations, but like the gray zone, he'll also add the caveat, and some financial friends who deserve privacy so that they don't have to be attacked by the people who hate us for telling you the truth. It's like, oh, so you want to take dark money to support your work and you don't want people to lambaste you because it's from a rich asshole like you pretend you don't take money from. If Jimmy wanted to be transparent, and this is what you have to say about the Intercept, you can see exactly where they get their fucking money. Can't see where Jimmy gets his fucking money. You can see where the Vanguard gets our money. We put a list of every single fucker's name on our beginning and end of every video. That's who finances us. That's who bankrolls us. Everybody from Joe Schmo to Susan Sarandon. You can see who the fuck they are, okay? And yeah, we have nothing to hide here. But for him to go out and start fucking pointing fingers about how, you're financing us, which it is. I don't agree with the fucking financing model of the Intercept. It is not independent media. But again, when I say people in glass houses should not throw stones, Jimmy has not been at all transparent with how he, obviously I'm sure it's a lot of small dollar donations, but is there a big whale in there? We'll never know because Jimmy won't tell us. He won't be honest about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any technical proof out there that Jimmy's taking dark money or whatever. So I don't even know if like that's I wouldn't necessarily.
Why wouldn't he put out his transparent? Why wouldn't he be transparent?
Most people that like are funded through Patreon and stuff don't. So I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a fair criticism in my opinion. I get what you're saying, but what I would say is like there's a lot of commentators that work for big media companies that I think are good faith actors. And you can be critical of those big companies while not, assuming that everything those commentators say is as a result of the money they're getting. Like, for example, two of our favorite commentators over here at the Vanguard, Olayemi Olorin and Brianna Joy Gray, both employed by The Hill. I don't sit here and say, well, if I disagree with one of those two ladies, I don't sit here and say, well, they're just saying that because they're being paid to by The Hill, which is owned by Nexstar, corporate media company. Like, that would be ridiculous, and everyone would immediately recognize that as a smear. Again, if I disagree with Olayemi or Brianna, I'm not going to come out here and say they're just getting paid by The Hill to say that because The Hill wants X, Y, or Z. That's fucking ridiculous. Or even Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore has a show on Callin, the app Callin. It's owned by a fucking billionaire. And he definitely gets paid by that billionaire. We also used to be on Callin. If I disagree with Jimmy Dore on something, as I often do, in case you haven't noticed, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, he's just being paid by the owner of Callin. I think his name is David Sachs, who's a right-wing billionaire. I'm not going to sit here and say that Jimmy's only saying this because that's who's paying him to say it or something. And that doesn't mean I can't be critical of the funding structure. We have been critical of the Intercept's funding structure. I do think that, billionaire-owned and funded media is problematic for obvious reasons. But that doesn't mean that Ryan Grimm is being controlled by Piero Midyar in the same way that Brianna Joy Gray or Olayemi Olorin or, formerly Ryan Grimm himself was being paid to say whatever by Nexstar Media. I think that's absolutely ridiculous to say. And also if Piero Midyar is paying Ryan Grimm to be pro-war, he's doing a pretty bad job and should probably fire Ryan, because Ryan has not been in any way, shape, or form pro-war. At every single turn, Ryan has been critical of the U.S. funding of the conflict in Ukraine. He's called the spending packages insane. That's a direct quote. And he's been advocating for peace and diplomacy basically the whole time, as long as I've been paying attention, at least, which is from the beginning. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous. He, in fact, was just pressing AOC on this exact issue. He got an interview with AOC for The Intercept and basically said, what's up with this? Why are the progressives not pushing back on the Biden doctrine here. Like, why is there not a progressive voice for peace? This letter came out, but then it was retracted. Why aren't you guys sticking up for peace? Why aren't you guys advocating for diplomacy? So that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but I think that if you're going to apply that call-in critique, that applies to YouTube, that applies to, you know, everything. Whereas the one thing that sticks out as a thorn in my side, right? Because YouTube is owned by billionaires that, you know, pay us or whatever, but they don't have any editorial oversight, which is, I believe, probably the key distinction that, you know, you could make about The Intercept is that, you know, Ryan Grimm is an editor, but he also probably has a boss or whatever. Like, at least here, like, your only boss is, you know, the people that own the business that you're working on, which is why, like, Colin, they were like, hey, fuck you, you can get out of here now, we don't care if we had a contract with you, those kinds of things, right? But I just think it's sus to be like, oh, blah blah blah, like, you know, you're taking money from billionaires, but yet nobody knows where your money's coming from. I don't know, I still think it's a little sus.
Sure. I mean, I think it would be dope if people were more transparent. I'm just saying, if there's no like actual evidence, I don't want to be engaging in like suggestions or whatever.
I didn't say I said why wouldn't he if it wasn't I'm just saying, why wouldn't he? If this is such a chief concern of his, if this is something that he believes so sincerely and it's the fucking crux of his political mission, you would think he would at least like go out of his way to be transparent about it.
Right. Also, thank you so much, Brian, for the $4.99. I think Ryan is too soft on the squad sometimes, but I don't understand why Jimmy hates him so much. What's the origin of the dispute? Yeah, totally agree. That's one thing we were critical of Ryan for as well. I remember during the force the vote debacle, we had Ryan Grimm on our podcast to debate the specific issue, and I said, I was like, you know, you have access to these progressives, AOC, the like. Why are you using your access to challenge them on this issue? And instead, I kind of felt like he was defending their position rather than, you know, holding their feet to the fire. So that's a criticism I had of Ryan at that time. And like I said that to his face. We've had Ryan on the show and engaged in disagreements with him before. We've definitely been critical of him and his stance, especially as it relates to like the squad and the House progressives and all that stuff. So yeah, I totally agree. Like Ryan's not above criticism. Overall, I think he's a good faith actor, and overall, I think he's an honest journalist, a really good journalist. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely not above criticism. The origin of the dispute is that during the whole force the vote debacle, Ryan Grimm was invited on Jimmy Dore's show for a debate about the subject matter. And needless to say, it did not go well for Jimmy Dore. In fact, it went so poorly for Jimmy Dore that after the live stream, he didn't even upload the debate. He kept it behind his paywall for patrons. So I think if you like go to his website and you pay him money, you can watch it. But unlike 95% of the content and 95% of the interviews or debates that Jimmy does with people, that one was never uploaded because again, it went so poorly for Jimmy. So yeah, I think that's kind of the origin of the dispute. The fact that Jimmy got triggered by the fact that he was bested in a debate with Ryan Grimm. And since then he's just been super salty about it, even though, like I said, Ryan's a great journalist. He works for a publication that Glenn Greenwald fucking started. Jimmy, I mean, so I think that's ridiculous. And also, I mean, Glenn Greenwald works for Rumble, which is owned by Peter Thiel, and he's paid by Peter Thiel. So like, yet another instance. I'm not gonna, if I disagree with Glenn, am I gonna say you're just being paid by Peter Thiel to say that? No, that's a fucking smear. That's ridiculous. And you have to apply the same standard to a company like The Intercept, which again, I disagree with billionaires funding media. I genuinely do. But I don't think it's really any different than Glenn Greenwald being paid by Rumble, or Brown and Joy Gray being paid by The Hill, or Jimmy Dore being paid by Colin, right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Again, I think that, yeah, it all comes down to force the vote. And I think the fact that Jimmy was just looking for big fucking caricatures to send to his audience after and tear down. And then Ryan Grimm became a very popular like figurehead for his audience, kind of like a Cenk Uygur kind of a guy, that somebody that was just going to stir up a lot of outrage for people and get him a lot of clicks. And then he just kind of like went with it. And now, even when Ryan Grimm is making a point that I think if another person had articulated it, Jimmy would have at least been much more softer in his reading, or at least just a little more sympathetic to. He has to try and blow it way out of proportion and make it seem like Ryan is this like maniacal pro-war, like Zelensky simp who, you know, will stop at anything to, or will stop at nothing to continue to enrich Piero Midyar and all this kind of horse shit, right? Which is just clearly not true. But yeah, like, I mean, I've been massively critical of Ryan in the past. But on this issue, there's nothing to be like. I mean, this instance, this is just a bad misrepresentation of his reporting when he's done actual reporting. Like, he's the only one that's able to get out there and go sit in the White House press room and then come and talk to a show like us, like straight up. That says something about the guy. He will talk to Jen Psaki. He will get his questions answered. He'll talk to AOC. He'll ask AOC tough questions. Are they as tough and mean and caustic as what Jimmy would have asked her? No, because that's why Jimmy's not going to get those interviews, right? But we can still glean value from Ryan Grimm when he's in here asking AOC why she fucking abandoned the grassroots organizations that got her into office. Why, she's not doing more to, negotiate or push for peace in Ukraine. Why she's not, ask her how she felt and if she stands by the letter calling for peace. All these different things that, Ryan's capable of doing. I think that adds a lot of value here, even when I do disagree with the guy. So yeah, I just think it's a little bit of out of pocket to come after him for this.
Right. And yeah, they've been in a bunch of Twitter beefs since then and stuff. And again, like, I don't have any problem. I'm not going to sit here and tone police Jimmy Dore for going after Ryan Grimm. I don't give a fuck. But this is just a blatant fucking lie. Like, that you're completely misrepresenting this guy's opinion on diplomacy and peace and the Russia-Ukraine war. Ryan Grimm has consistently advocated for peace. He's consistently held the progressives' feet to the fire as to why they aren't advocating for peace. He's been critical of the spending packages. He called it insane that we're spending as much money as we are on the packages to Ukraine. The dude is as pro-peace and as anti-war as you could fucking get as a journalist. But yet Jimmy Dore is acting with a straight face like the guy is literally pro-war. And I want to play this too because it's so funny. One more time, just the first part.
Of course, it came from someone from fucking Breaking Points, Ryan Grimm from The Intercept. He says, I don't know if you saw this, but Russia just announced it's withdrawing from Kherson, which is a massive defeat for them. Now, why did Ryan Grimm say that? He's paid by Pierre Omidyar, who wants the Ukraine war.
Why did he accurately state something that happened in the war? Like, how else was he supposed to phrase it, bro? Like Russia did announce its withdrawal after a massive defeat in Kherson. You can be as pro-Putin as humanly possible. You can think Putin is the most based, dude in the world or whatever. That doesn't change the facts of the situation. Like, how else is a journalist supposed to report facts if not just by stating the facts? Like, Russia announced its withdrawal from Kherson, which was a massive defeat. That's just an accurate statement of what happened in that battle. Like, he's not saying like the based Ukrainians triumphed over the cringe soy boy Russians or something. Like, he's literally just saying what happened. That's what a journalist is supposed to do. What the fuck?
Yeah, pretty funny.
Yeah, that's just pretty funny. Also, thank you so much, Sean DeStefano, for the 199 take on the midterms. Or did I miss it? Yeah, we did a little bit of commentary about the midterms. We put out a video the other day about the civil war brewing in the Republican Party between the Trump team and the DeSantis faction. So check that out if you haven't already. We also did a great conversation with Tyrell Ventura over on his Substack about the midterm. So check that out too. We retweeted that on our Twitter. Follow the Vanguard at Vanguard_pod if you want to go back and find that. So that was a good conversation. Ultimately, yeah, the Republicans ate shit. Like, they did way worse than I was expecting them to. I thought it was going to be a red wave. I thought that, it was the Democrats that were going to lose the House and the Senate. It looks like the Democrats have retained the Senate, and I think the House is going to come down to like 1 or 2 seats. It's probably going to go Republican, but not for sure. The Dems actually might hold on to it, which is crazy to think about. So yeah, that would be our commentary. Although I will say, and I tweeted this yesterday, I was like, don't let the Democrats, trick you into believing that they did well in the midterms because Joe Biden's somehow doing a great job and the American people are rewarding his competence. No. Joe Biden's doing a terrible job. He's an unpopular president. The economy is still getting worse under him. Student loan debt is still not gone through under him. Cannabis has still not been legalized under him. He's doing a terrible, terrible job. And the takeaway from the midterms should not be, oh, the Democrats are so competent, they should keep doing what they're doing. Absolutely not. The reason why the Republicans did fucking historically terrible is because their candidates were all a bunch of fucking freaks, unlikable freaks that were rejected by the American people for a variety of reasons, including they leaning way too far into the culture war issues, making wokeness and child mutilation the centerpiece of their campaigns rather than a message of economic populism, and also nominating a bunch of certifiable lunatics, election denying lunatics that traffic in obviously false conspiracy theories. That's actually not what the American people care about. Like, guess what? The American people actually don't give a fuck about the fact that these insane lunatics think that Trump was the election was stolen from Trump. No one thinks that. No one cares about that. Whoever does think that is already fucking voting Republican. But your average American voter, the independents that the GOP actually needs to win over, they don't give a fuck about those deranged conspiracy theories. And they also don't give as much of a fuck about wokeness and the child mutilation and all this crap. They don't, I mean, some of them might care about that, but not more than the economy, healthcare, abortion, etc. So I think that's why the Republicans did terribly, again, because they nominated a bunch of fucking freaks, not because the Democrats were like somehow competent or that the American people just love Joe Biden.
Yeah, look, I think that what it comes down to is exactly what you said. It was a rejection of the right-wing culture war. It was a rejection of the election denialism. It was a rejection of the hardcore MAGA, just delusional candidates. All across the board, those people were just trounced, except for a handful, like J.D. Vance was able to pull it out. But very few of the like hardcore Donald Trump candidates were able to pull it out in a way that really, really swung how we were understanding the midterms to go out, right? A lot of people thought that the Republicans were going to pick up the Senate, maybe 2 seats, maybe flip it to 52 in the Senate, and then a clear, decisive majority in the House, and that just did not materialize. And it's 100% important to remind everybody that, as you said, Gavin, this is not because Joe Biden was being based. Like, all of the dark Brandon jokes were just jokes. Like, people did not turn out because of the fucking student loan cancellation that didn't happen and might not ever happen. Like, people didn't turn out because of anything that Joe Biden had done. Joe Biden brought home jobs. Like, people don't know about that. Their life is still hard. The economy still sucks for them. That was not why they showed up to vote. They showed up to vote because they were like, oh my God, a lot of people will not, like, they didn't think that there was going to be much of a chance to vote ever again if they didn't vote in some of these races, right? I think that was a real panic of the American people that I talked to, even though it wasn't one that I maybe shared as intensely. It was a very big concern for a lot of people. The anti-election results shit, the election denialism or whatever, I think that was another big motivator to get people out.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Sean. Really appreciate your super chat. We got a couple more super chats before we move on. Thank you so much, Nima, for the $5. Wrong. It wasn't a debate. The dispute started when Ryan smeared Jimmy on Twitter after the Force the Vote town hall. Your hero, Ryan Grimm, also pushed Russiagate. I don't remember him smearing Jimmy. We've covered so many beefs on the show. I mean, I'm sure they got into a Twitter beef after the Force the Vote town hall. I wouldn't be surprised about that. We probably did a segment on it. I don't specifically remember what happened with that. And as for Russiagate, I don't remember Ryan ever saying that. Even if he did say that, okay. Like, I've criticized Ryan Grimm a bunch of times. I'm not saying I agree with him on everything. I never did say that. I said that it's fine to criticize Ryan Grimm, and I don't agree with people that tone police Jimmy Dore. But it's also not okay to just blatantly lie about someone, completely and utterly and undeniably smear them, and misrepresent their opinion, which is what happened here. As I said on Twitter, based on Ryan Grimm's coverage and commentary about the Ukraine conflict, this is a straight up smear. He literally supports peace and wants the war to end ASAP via diplomatic means, which he constantly advocates for. Just a completely dishonest representation of Grimm's work and independent and opinion. And that's what I think happened. If Ryan said something about Russiagate that I disagree with, okay, like, that doesn't change what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I don't remember him supporting Russiagate. That sounds like something that I would know about if that happened. But hey, maybe. I don't know. But shout out to you, Nima. You're always my favorite hate watcher.
Yeah, really appreciate the super chat, Nima. Thank you so much. Also, thank you, Christina. Really appreciate you as always, Christina. I've noticed that even our BN is having full shows dedicated to the Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. I guess everyone has to pay the bills. Oh, yeah. Let me let you in on a secret about Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome and why it may or may not appear to exist. It appears to exist for the same reason that we have channels out here that spend their entire or focus all their attention on defending Jimmy Dore. The reason why people both defend Jimmy Dore incessantly and criticize Jimmy Dore incessantly is because if you're on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, and you put Jimmy Dore's name in the title or make content about him, more people watch it. He's a controversial figure. And again, whether you're defending him or criticizing him, it's going to result in more people watching. It's that simple. So if it seems like a lot of people spend a lot of time talking about Jimmy Dore, that's why. If you weren't aware of that, that's why. But it's not like when people do that, they're just like, oh, I can't fucking stand Jimmy. Like, I have deranged. I'm so deranged. Like, no, it's literally like, oh, if I talk about this recent controversy involving this extremely controversial person, people are going to tune in. It's that simple. Anyway, and also like Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome, like some people accuse us of having Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. I would say we spend just about as easily as much time, if not more time, on our channel criticizing, say, the Young Turks, right? Do we have TYT derangement syndrome? Like, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one says that. I guess by the same standards, though, we do. We have TYT derangement syndrome because we spend a lot of time criticizing them too. When in reality, it's because of both of these channels. Whether it's TYT or Jimmy Dore, they're both controversial. And people tune in when you talk about it. So guess what? People are going to fucking talk about it. And that goes for his defenders as well. It's just the reverse.
Yeah, look, I mean, that was the entire thesis of our show, guys. So everybody was like, wow, clickbait, I'm out of here. I'm like, why did you even show up? Like, that's the whole thing we've ever fucking done here. We literally, I mean, Progressive Voice did it first, then we started to do it better. And then then the walls just came tumbling down and it was like, oh shit. This is the way to like start a YouTube channel in this lane here. And then it was just like, how far are you willing to go in one camp or the other, or do you want to try and be in the middle? Like, those are all decisions that you can make. So that leads, like, if you want to be like a hardcore, like anti Jimmy Dore, pro TYT channel, like that's one option. Or you could be like, Jimmy's the only truth teller and everybody else is a fraud. They're air conditioned leftists, like fucking crazy shit. Then, you go on the other ride here and or you could go the Jackson Hinkle route where you just start sucking Putin's balls every day on your live stream. So hey, there's different it takes different strokes to move the boat, as they say.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, we're critical of people across the board, right? Like, we'll talk about anyone, we'll criticize any channel. Sometimes I like to say that we're the only channel that'll criticize both the TYT left and the Jimmy Dore left. And honestly, that's kind of low key true. Like, let's be honest, guys. Because you got channels out here that are cozied up to Jank and Anna and TYT, and they'll never fucking criticize them. When Jank starts endorsing fascist Republicans for the mayor of LA, nope, nothing to say about that. Oops, I didn't see that.
Not even Nina Turner.
Yeah, not even Nina Turner, the fucking unbossed Nina Turner won't even speak out against that. So that's one thing. That's on one hand. And then you got other channels that, they'll criticize everyone else and they'll viciously and uncharitably attack every other leftist commentator. But then when Jimmy Dore says something that's obviously fucking stupid, or starts going on like some transphobic, segment or something, like, oh, nope, don't have anything to say about that. Absolutely nothing to say. Or when he starts retweeting like anti-Semitic garbage, you know what I'm saying? Like, nothing to say about. Oh, I wonder why. I guess they just weren't paying attention that day. I wonder what that's about. Meanwhile, us, Zach and I, when we see TYT saying some bullshit, we immediately get online to start calling that shit out. Same with fucking Jimmy Dore. Same with Jimmy Dore. So yeah, we're the only principled channel on YouTube is what I'm trying to say.
Yep. Give him the old TJ Kirk spiel, Gavin.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, thank you so much, Christina. Really appreciate that. Thank you also, Kelly, for the 99. That's something I love to hear, Kelly. Gavin's 100% right. Absolutely true. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. When you get to nonsense culture war panics against a feckless government that is in Act Zero of their campaign promises, what's there to brag about? Right. Going back to the midterms. And this is another point I made on Twitter and also in our conversation with Tyrell Ventura. It's usually the left. It's usually the Democrats. Okay, the Democrats aren't the left, but you know what I'm saying. In the mind of the American voter, they are, unfortunately. It's usually the Democrats and the left that are accused of leaning too hard into the culture war and, prioritizing social justice issues over economic issues. That's a concern that's constantly lobbed at the Democrats. And sometimes that is an accurate thing to say about the Democrats. You know, they'll come out here and put on their kente cloth and kneel down and pretend to be in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and all that shit. But they're not actually serious about that. You know, they just don't want to have to talk about the fact that they're denying people health care and selling out to big pharma and selling out to the fossil fuel industry, et cetera, et cetera. So people sometimes accurately criticize the Democrats for leading too far into the culture war. And that's often, you know, that turns people off, you know, your average normie American, whatever, that doesn't want to hear about, you know, why they need to say Latinx instead of Latina, or, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of dumb shit. That's an observable and oftentimes accurate criticism of the Democratic Party. But I think in this election cycle, in this midterms, it was actually the GOP that leaned way too hard into the culture war instead of having a cogent or persuasive economic message or agenda to sell. What were the Republicans talking about? You know, I turn on the TV here in Missouri and I hear the Republican Senate candidate talking about fucking trans sports in high school and shit like that. Like do you think that's an issue that affects your average American? Like the trans community is like 0.5% of the population or something. Like, why are you focusing on and talking about the drag shows and the groomers and all this insane anti-LGBT hysteria that they ginned up, and talking about the woke mob, like focusing on wokeness so hard? Like, okay, you're again, most people that are going to be persuaded by that message are already voting Republican. By making wokeness and child mutilation your top issues, you're actually just turning off your average American that doesn't really give that much of a fuck about these culture war issues and would rather you talk about outsourcing or trade deals or even immigration, which isn't a policy I agree with the Republicans on, but it seems to be more salient with your average voter. Look at 2016 for an example of that. But again, leaning into these nonsense ginned up culture war issues instead of having an economic agenda that's at all populist absolutely cost the Republicans in this midterm cycle. And I think that their candidates were just far too crazy on that front and leaned way too far into those issues. Like Blake Masters, for example, check out some of his ads, or JD Vance, who unfortunately won, but especially Blake Masters. He put out these ads about, you know, here in America, we can't even talk about like white greatness. So he starts listing, this is do you see that ad? Yeah. He's like, this is the country of Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett and like all this bullshit. And then he's like,
Davy Crockett, a savage man, just a fucking bloodthirsty, fucking hateful, horrible man.
Yeah, I'll try to find that ad because it was so creepy. But he was like, when was the last time you heard NPR talking about how great America was? All they want to talk about is they're just anti-white racist and all this stupid bullshit. So yeah, I think it was actually the GOP that ironically leaned way too heavily into the culture war this midterm cycle. And I really do think it cost them dearly because again, people were focused on the economy, healthcare, and abortion, not fucking, you know, drag shows or like fucking healthcare for trans teens. Like, guess what? There are actual fucking issues affecting Americans. Like, people are actually concerned about the state of the economy, about inflation, kitchen table issues. Who thought it was a good idea to make the entire message of the GOP about all this nonsense bullshit culture war stuff? I think it's pretty funny.
Well, I mean, the reality is that they had absolutely no way to tangibly address something like inflation. They had no way to tangibly address the fact that people want to have the right to an abortion and that they had made it a pillar of their fucking politics to take that right away from Americans. They had absolutely nothing to say to convince people that they were going to uplift them. For all the talk that the Democrats aren't raising the minimum wage, neither are the Republicans. What the fuck were the Republicans going to do? Bring jobs back home? Get the fuck out of here, okay? Why are they going to talk about that? That they're just going to have to grapple with the fact that they're going to send the jobs away. And in the past, that never stopped them. They would still, bang away on things like drill, baby, drill, like making headway on, fighting the climate, activists and, talking about how we're going to drill everywhere. And like, at least those kinds of things produced jobs, right? But really the only job creation adjacent kind of commentary that they were giving was that we need to hire more cops. I mean, that was literally the closest thing that I could think of that would be like an economic proposal from the Republicans. So, like, they want more cops, but that was absolutely it. There was no follow-up to that. There was no, we need to invest in our domestic infrastructure. There was no, we need to figure out what the fuck we're gonna do in Ukraine. Like there wasn't a lot of talk about that. It was all fucking trans kids. We need more cops. The left doesn't love the cops anymore or enough. Yeah, nothing, no there. So shout out to you, Kelly. And also shout out to you, Rock, for your $10 contribution in honor of Brian Frederick, all-time Vanguard favorite commenter. Here is a $10 donation. Ask Brian Frederick to change the angle and facial expression on the photo on his avatar. All right, Brian, I'm making that request on behalf, of Rock Nouveau. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rock. Really appreciate that $10. I don't think there's anything wrong with Brian's profile picture, but I appreciate the comment, man. Really do. And speaking of Brian Frederick, for the $1.99, thank you so much. What happened to the Progressive Voice? I think he still makes content. I don't watch it, but I think he's out there making content. And there's no denying he was an inspiration to us as far as the way we craft our video titles and the kind of content that we produce sometimes. So yeah, shout out to Sahil. I hope he's doing well out there. I'd be happy to chat. I've actually asked Sahil if he'd be interested to come on the Vanguard before, and I never heard back. Probably he's pissed at us for stealing his formula and doing it better. But yeah, I don't really know, man. I'm sure he's out there chilling.
Yeah, it doesn't, based on what I'm looking at, it doesn't look like he uploads very often anymore. There was like a 2-month gap between some videos he put out a couple days ago for the midterm. And then, when he was making like Dark Brandon Rises content. And yeah, honestly, guys, if you want to just look at how the landscape has changed on YouTube for people who are making progressive content, for people who are making progressive commentary, go back and look at how many fucking views Sahil was getting. And it's insane. Like the dude was putting up like 200,000 view clips, like easy, like 175,000. It was insane. And now, I bet he's stoked if it hits 10K. So it's just a big change in the landscape, big change in the algorithm. And I imagine that's frustrating for a guy that, thought that he'd kind of, made it past that.
Yeah, I also remember he got absolutely destroyed by Destiny in a in a debate. God, that was so embarrassing for him, man. I mean, not that I've performed perfectly in every debate ever. I'm not saying that I have, but that was hard to watch. Go back and look up Progressive Voice versus Destiny if you just want to cringe hard. But I'm not trying to be too hard on the guy. He was super young, and we haven't even debated Destiny. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit afraid to. The guy's a good fucking debater, so I'm not talking shit. But also, shout out to our Twitch audience. I decided to simulcast to Twitch today. Don't always do that, and we actually have a decent amount of people watching on Twitch. Like I think like maybe 20 people or something, which is not a lot, but compared to what we usually get on Twitch, that's pretty impressive. So make sure to sub to us on Twitch as well, guys. I just threw that link in the chat on YouTube. So hit that up and make sure to follow us on Twitch as well. Oh, it's because Radical Left Agenda Thank you so much. I was like, what is going on here? Really appreciate that, Radical Leftist Agenda. Thank you for the raid. We were trying to break more into Twitch, but it's just for the longest time we would simulcast to Twitch and like 2 people max would tune in or watch it. So I was like, is this even really worth it? But I guess we'll keep simulcasting there because it'd be cool to build an audience on Twitch as well. Got a lot of love for the Twitch viewers. So yeah, if anyone's just tuning in on Twitch for the first time, welcome to the Vanguard. Make sure to subscribe to us on Twitch and YouTube and all that good stuff. But thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I got to start playing League of Legends or something to get the fucking ball rolling over there on Twitch. I don't know what the cheat code is for building an audience on that platform. But yeah, shout out to everybody that tunes in on Twitch. I still fucking feel like a grandpa whenever I go on Twitch. I'm like, what the hell's happening? There's so much fucking, like, I'm like, it's like Las Vegas for your eyeballs. You're just like looking at all the shit that's going on.
That's funny. And you're saying that, sorry, I don't know how to, Nikki, I'm just gonna call you Nikki. I know you used to go by Radical Left Agenda. Either way, they won't push your stream if you sound interesting. Well, see, then there's the problem because we're not just going to go live to like, 10 people. Like, that's just not worth our time. So, I mean, maybe we could do like a weekly Twitch stream or something. And then like upload the clips to YouTube. I don't know. Maybe we'll try something. Either way, really appreciate the raid, Nikki. Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe we'll do like late night guard on Twitch and then upload clips from it if we get anything spicy. I don't know what the hell we could do to get people more interested in that, but that's a bummer that they won't fucking push you if you simulcast. It's some weird Jeff Bezos fucking capitalist bullshit. But anyway, shout out to Ashwin Harris. Are you all going to have RBN on your show again? Fuck, I'm down to if they reach out and they want to talk about something, for sure. I mean, we've had Nick on our show a bunch of times. We've had Sabby on our show multiple times. I don't know if JB's still doing a lot of content for them, but we've had him on our show. We had RJ back on the show multiple times. He was one of the dudes that was on back when they were still Fred Hampton left. So yeah, I mean, we've had those guys on our podcast a fuck ton of times. So they're welcome to come back on if they want to. I know we disagree on some shit, so it could get spicy, but that would be fun.
Yeah, it's funny because people always try to like instigate a beef between us and RBN. They're always like trying to like make us fight for some reason. But we've had like nothing but good experiences really with the folks over at RBN. Had them on our podcast. Sabby's had us on her podcast a few times. Some people say they've talked shit on us. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Like we talk shit on all kinds of people, dude. I really don't care. So if they want to reach out to us and have us on to discuss whatever they may want to discuss, we'd happily go on their show. Of course we would. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much we go anywhere that people ask us. I mean, Gavin and I almost never get invited on other people's shows, but when we do, we almost always go.
Right. Yeah, unless you're just like a total fucking loser. Also, thank you, Alex Kahn, for the 499. Get Snowden on the show through Glenn. Ooh, that would be interesting. I highly doubt that would happen just because Snowden, it seems like he doesn't grant a ton of interviews. And when he does, it's with like someone more important than us. But I mean, obviously that'd be dope as fuck. Snowden's an interesting guy. I don't agree with all of his takes. Same with Glenn, of course. But, obviously we'd love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing. But yeah, look, I mean, guys, come on. What am I supposed to do? Be like, hey, Glenn, I know you sacrificed a lot to, work with this man in exile in Russia, but my up and coming YouTube show that's going to be absolutely not worth this man's time is fucking looking to get a big boost. I'm sorry, that's not like an easy pitch for me. Maybe if we had 100,000 subs, or if we fucking randomly get a DM from Edward Snowden being like, hey, I've watched your fucking podcast, right? But I mean, you don't just reach out to fucking like international celebrity and be like, please, sir, use your connections to get some new people on my fucking show, please. Like, so, but anyway, I appreciate the sentiment, and I admire the fact that you think we are capable of roping down a guy like Edward Snowden, Alex. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting dude. So thank you so much, Alex. That'd be dope. Really appreciate you as well. Brian, Jimmy, and Jank sound like professional wrestlers cutting promos. Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, absolutely. They both lean into that like WWE style shit, and so do we. I mean, we're like WWE commentators, just but for BreadTube shit and like progressive media online. So absolutely. But that being said, I'm not trying to say it's all fake. Like I genuinely do think those guys hate the fuck out of each other. It's not like at the end of the day they get together and like, cheers to another successful day of fake beefing. Like, no, they actually genuinely hate each other. And if they were in a room together, they'd probably attack each other like wild animals and rip each other's fucking throats out. Like, don't get it twisted. They genuinely fucking hate each other. And that's the thing about both of those guys is they're insane narcissists, like insane narcissists. Why do you think Jimmy Dore he's admitted to having multiple sock puppet accounts, which exist solely for the purpose of defending himself online? Like, it's one thing to have a sock puppet account that you just, because if you're a public figure, it makes sense to have a private account so you can just look at Twitter and, like shit or whatever, and even retweet shit. Who cares? But if you're using your sock puppet account to get in arguments on behalf of yourself and defend yourself from fucking randos online with like 50 followers, that's a narcissistic motherfucker right there. Anyway, same goes for Jank. I don't know if he has any sock puppet accounts, but he's also insane narcissist. But yeah, they definitely lean into that for sure.
Yeah, it's actually one of the conversations that we got into early on with our good buddy Tyrell, whose old man, obviously Jesse Ventura, was an actual professional wrestler. And when he invited us on his show, we talked a lot about how their professional wrestling kind of rhetoric and, using caricatures as a way of like, as being like figures for an argument that we're using it's basically exactly what we do here at the Vanguard. So yeah, and obviously Jank and Jimmy understand marketing. They understand eyes on the fucking screen, butts in seats for the fucking digital age, if you will. And yeah, people want to see a clash. They want to see fireworks. They want to see like people going to blows. They want to see confidence and bravado. You know, they don't want to see any nuance. They want to see I'm right and you're fucking wrong, and I'm pummeling you with my voice. So yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate that. And thank you once again, Alex. Thank you so much for the $4.99 on your birthday. You're giving us gifts. Really appreciate that, man. Wrong place, but would you guys be the first episode on? You're just gonna have to give us a few more super chats, Alex, and then we'll consider it, bro. Just a few more dollars, and then maybe. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, hit us up when you start your podcast. Sure, might as well, right? You seem like a cool guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll come on your show. So many people fucking came on our show and they just hit us up out of the fucking blue. That we hit up out of the fucking blue, who had probably no idea who we were. And yeah, we've seen you in here a bunch of times. Appreciate you supporting the show, Alex. Happy to come on and chat with you. Just shoot us an email at the Vanguard blog 2020@gmail.com. We'll get something on the calendar.
Absolutely. And also, if you're people hit us up sometimes about doing interviews and stuff, and I apologize if I haven't got back to you. We got a lot of messages on Twitter, and I don't look at them all, and sometimes I will, and I'm like, oh, I'll respond to that, and then I forget to. So if you've ever hit us up and we're like, I'm a fledgling young YouTuber with 5 subscribers, please come on our show, and I didn't respond, it's not because I think you're a loser, I promise. It's just because I don't have enough mental bandwidth to deal with all of the incoming messages to the Vanguard, and also just not enough time in the day to come on every single show that asks us to. But we really are more than happy to try to help out younger fledgling YouTube shows and channels. Like, obviously at one point we were tiny, we still are tiny, don't get it twisted, we have like less than 400 people watching right now, but you know what I'm saying, like obviously a lot of people showed us that grace, and we do try to reciprocate that. So absolutely, Alex, we'll definitely come on your show. Really appreciate the contributions as always like seeing you in the chat.
Don't get it twisted. No. Yeah. Shout out to everybody. I'm even worse than Gavin at responding to the shit that people send us. It's like, because I look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm fucking horrible at scheduling. So Alex, if it takes us a little bit to get this on the calendar, we're not fucking skirting you. But yeah, I appreciate you, asking. That is kind of you. Shout out to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Really appreciate you, man. And also thank you, Comrade, for the $2. It would win in a fight between Jimmy and Jake. LOL. That's funny. Remember when Jake was trying to provoke Joe Rogan into a literal fight? That was funny as fuck.
Yeah, obviously Jake would whip Jimmy's ass. He's got like a 200-pound weight advantage. And I think Jimmy has a really bad back. So I think that Jake could spank the guy. But Jimmy's a wealthy man. He's got security. That's a neutralizer.
Yeah, it's not even close. It's jank. I mean, like, regardless of what you think of the dude, like, he would absolutely destroy Jimmy. I would destroy Jimmy Dore, bro. Like, and I'm a fucking skinny little dude. Like, just saying that's not a very like ferocious look. That's not an alpha male. Anyway, thank you, Comrade. Really appreciate the $2. And thank you, Christina, for the 49. Jake, definitely the Vince McMahon of YouTube. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
I think he dreamed of being the Vince McMahon of progressive leftism, and the difference between Jank is that his fucking platform is bleeding money, not growing at all, in utter stagnation. And Vince McMahon successfully took over the entire WWE and every single small wrestling promotion with it to become like an actual fucking G. And he was a terrible guy, union buster. Jesse Ventura, based as hell, one night tried to really hard to fucking start a union for the WWE wrestlers. There's a great little clip on YouTube of him telling that story if you guys ever watch it. But yeah, fuck Vince McMahon. That he is also a union buster, just like Jank.
Yeah, you're right. They do have that in common, the union busting. Thank you so much, Christina. As always, really appreciate it. And also, thank you so much, Mike, for the $2. We were talking about this a little bit at the beginning of the show. Do you want to talk about your thoughts on that game, Zach, again?
Yeah, so it was quite an interesting game. What I liked. What have I been saying over the past couple of weeks, Mike? I like us to move the ball around. We need to have more. We need to have more targets for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes got really comfortable throwing to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce over the years, and he relied really heavily on those two targets. And now we're seeing Tyrell's gone. Or Tyreek, excuse me, is gone, and Travis Kelce gets double teamed on every single play. So I saw that there were 9 unique receivers for Patrick Mahomes in this game, and I think 4 of them had more than 20 fucking yards. We had 4 different players score every touchdown. So these types of things are good. Unfortunately, we're still having a little bit of a problem with sloppy play. We had a couple of fumbles that we shouldn't have. We let them get away with that onside kick at the beginning of the fucking game. And thank God the Jacksonville Jaguars are not a team that can execute. Okay. They fumbled every single golden opportunity that they had to put points on the board. And if they'd been a better, more capable team, those mistakes that the Chiefs made would have come back to hurt us, like they did in a couple of our losses this season. The Chiefs are really in a position where there's so much talent on the field that we have to lose to ourselves, right? If we go out there and we play our football, we are going to win. But unfortunately, sometimes there's just sloppy play, bad fucking play calls by Steve Spagnuolo, sometimes on the defensive side. But other than that, Butker pissed me off when he missed the extra point, but I was proud of how everybody played today. I thought it was a good game. Oh, also, the running back that's going to replace Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but this Pacheco guy, if he can hold on to the fucking football, he's gonna be a stud for us. And what's the name of the new wide receiver that just got his first touchdown today? It was like it started with like a P or something. Anyway, we had a new wide receiver that played really well today also. So
Why are they replacing Edwards-Helaire?
Because here's the shitty part about the NFL, guys. If you're a running back, they'll give you like 5 good years in the NFL, right? And Edwards-Helaire was a damn good running back out of LSU, but it's about to be his 5th year, so this is his contract year. And what happens is if you're a fucking player in the league that has a lot of legs, plays for a long time, you'll have your rookie contract, and that's when you'll get you'll make money, lots of money to a regular person, but not nearly what you're worth to the team. And then after your rookie years or your rookie contract's over, then you can leverage like your performance on the field into more money. Edwards-Helaire is going to want more money, and we're not going to want to give it to him, so we're just going to boot him, and we're going to have another young guy that we can pluck out of obscurity and pay the less money to, and also just because it's such a short career life for running backs in the NFL. I mean, you are going through a fucking meat grinder, getting the shit kicked out of you every single game. Your body breaks down. You're not going to be as fast as the 24-year-old guy that's there when you're 28. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like being like a porn star. Like you can make a lot of money for a while, but at a certain point, you're gonna see that money drop. You're not gonna be an asset anymore in that industry. Yeah, I guess that's the way it is. Thank you so much, Mike. Also, we were talking a little bit about the absolute freakishness of the Republican candidates, and I said I referenced this ad, so I just want to quickly play this one. I thought this was so funny, and again, just indicative of the what the fuck is going on in the why did they make this their message? You could have run on economic populism, outsourcing, inflation, presented some sort of a coherent message, and instead this is what candidates like Blake Masters went with. This is so fucking funny.
America isn't just an idea. We're a country. We're a people with a history and a culture. This is the home of Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone, of Mark Twain and Ernest Hemingway, of Norman Rockwell and Chuck Berry. Or how about... I can hear the screeching already. That list isn't diverse enough. That's all these people can talk about. But when's the last time you heard NPR talk about American greatness? When's the last time you heard a leftist say anything good at all about our people?
Our people.
If it were up to them, we wouldn't even exist. That's why they're obsessed with tearing down statues. I'm Blake Masters. I'm running for the U.S. Senate in Arizona, and I approve this message because I am proud to be an American.
Proud to be an American. Yeah, so it's like the exact reverse of the sort of social justice warrior kind of shit that right wingers love to bitch about. Why are these people, all they care about is identity politics. All they care about is identity politics and shit. And then they just turn around and do the same shit, but white identity politics. No one cares about white people anymore. White people don't fucking, they don't get a fair shake in this country. People are too woke and all this. It's the same shit, bro. You're also doing identity politics. No wonder this was not a salient message to the American people. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to pull you brought up Blake Masters, and I had to put up this other banger. This one's way shorter, but he tweeted this out. I guarantee the guy driving this truck is conservative. Imagine a progressive dude driving a logging truck. You can't. And then it's just this random fucker while he's in the car and driving a logging truck. He's like, look at this. This is fucking this has to be a fucking conservative in here, right? And then you look and you're just like, he doesn't even show you what the guy looks like. You have no idea. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, working class people. This man's doing real American things. He must be a leftist. Well, or excuse me, a Republican. Well, there weren't enough of those guys to get you in. And it was just empty, vacuous fucking virtue signaling, which is, again, exactly what you said, Gavin. It's the exact kind of thing that they used to get so outraged about, talk about how college campuses were ruining America and all this other stuff. It's like, that's what you do now. Like you and Jordan Peterson and all these guys who, up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who. Like, it is, it's just funny.
Yeah, and now that we're talking about Blake Masters, we weren't planning on talking about this, but I did want to also play this one other ad he did that was so fucking creepy. It's like literal school shooter vibes. Blake Masters is like the school shooter Senate candidate, straight up. You guys will see what I'm saying. This is the weirdest, most like uncomfortable, just I don't even understand why this ad was made, but tell me if you were made as uncomfortable by this as I was.
This is a Walther PPK, otherwise known as the James Bond gun. This is chambered in 22 LR, and I've got a dead air mask silencer on it. I've wanted this gun for a long time, ever since I was a little kid. Made in Germany, 007 gun. Why would you not want this? Let's load it up and see how it shoots. Silencers sometimes get a bad rap. People want to pretend that it makes it easy to commit crime or something like that. But actually shooting with a silencer just makes it a whole lot more pleasant to shoot because you don't have to worry about giant ear protection.
He's just firing it out into the middle of nowhere, like just shooting his gun. And I think the reason why this is so creepy is like there's no background music or anything. It's just like totally silent, except for he's like, this gun's so base, bro. Let me just go. Like, I just don't see like how this is appealing to people. Like I said, I get sociopath vibes from this motherfucker for sure.
Yeah. Also, what the fuck is the matter with our chat right now? All you crazy fuckers that are just spamming fucking mixed letters and whatnot. Like, this is how we're gonna have to get a mod. It's gonna be less fun for everybody. If you guys can't just be grown adults, talk all the shit you want, but at least like fucking don't spam a bunch of random letters so it ruins the chat for everybody.
Yeah, we do need to get a mod, by the way. I need to hit up Big Cat's Corner. Big Cat's Corner was going to be our mod, and I totally forgot to make him our mod. So we'll make you our mod, Big Cat's Corner. And if anyone else wants to apply for the prestigious position of Vanguard mod, they're not gonna ban fucking people for just criticizing us or whatever. Like we tolerate dissent. This is not an authoritarian regime here at the Vanguard. But for the people that are just spamming, yeah, like ban those fuckers. Like if you're just gonna type the same shit over and over again or try to like make it unproductive for everyone else, then yeah, like I have no sympathy for you. That's not a censorship thing. That's just like a get the fuck out of here thing. But also thank you, Mike H, once again for the $2. Speaking of RBs, thoughts on C in the 49ers? Do you have a thought on that?
Oh, sorry. Are you talking about Christian McAfee? I don't follow 49ers. I don't follow football a lot outside of my own like fucking narrow investment in the Kansas City Chiefs. Am I mistaken that guy might be getting like traded or something? I don't actually know. You're gonna have to give me a little bit more. As it stands, I have very few thoughts on this man. I think his name is like Christian McAfee, but I don't know a ton about him.
Absolutely. And also thank you, Brian, for the 199. Will Biden face a left-wing primary challenger? Whew. If he runs again, I doubt it. Unfortunately, I doubt it. I advocate for it. I hope it happens. I really genuinely do. But I think that, I think that the fact that the Democrats did as well as they did in the midterms is going to dissuade any potential challengers, whether they're progressive or not. Like people like Gavin Newsom or anyone like that might have been getting kind of greedy and been like, oh, maybe this is my time. Maybe I can, get in here and oust Biden. It was looking like that would be a possibility earlier. in the last couple of years because Biden's approval rating was really eating shit. It seemed like he was just being totally rejected. And don't get me wrong, he's not doing a good job. He's not. But the fact that they did well in the midterms is going to trick people into thinking that Biden is based and that he's doing great and that the American people love him. And I do imagine that will prevent a left-wing primary challenger. But I still hope it happens. I genuinely do.
I mean, yeah, I don't think it'll. I don't think it'll be like a close one. Is the problem. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody came out of the woodwork to try. I don't know who would have the clout to be like something that people would really sink their teeth into, though, that if you're an actual progressive that you could get excited about. I think the energy going into 2024 should really be focused on getting the Green Party to 5% or something like that, because I do think that, unfortunately, the worst outcome about this is the fact that the Democrats are going to spin this as being like a historically like big victory for an incumbent president, performing better than Obama did. Like all these different things are going to start to be like paraded out when it's time to make the case for Joe Biden again. And unless he has like a fucking stroke or something, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of discussion now. I think that ship kind of sailed with the fact that they held on to the Senate and could potentially hold on to the House. And if they don't, it's just like a 1 vote margin.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian. Also, we might actually be having Marianne Williamson on the podcast again sometime later this month. So stay tuned for that. And we'll definitely ask her about what she's thinking about a potential primary challenge. So yeah, hopefully we'll be having Marianne on soon. Looking forward to that. Also, thank you for the comment. That's super nice of you. Really appreciate it. Glad you're enjoying the show. I know it's not a super chat, but I was just like, that's nice.
Also, what happened to Ventura? Jesse Ventura is still very much around. He does a Substack. We were just on a show for it, so I also saw that chat in there. Jesse Ventura, the body of the governor, still doing just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse the Body Ventura. What a legend. What a fucking legend. But yeah, we do have one more story that we wanted to quickly get into, and that's Mr. Elon Musk up to some antics, some straight antics on Twitter. This was funny as fuck, guys. So Bernie Sanders put out this tweet. All right, so you guys might have been paying attention, but Elon Musk made it so that anyone could buy a blue check on Twitter. Anyone could get verified. So immediately there was a parody account of Eli Lilly and Company, which makes insulin, I guess. And they said, like, we're now giving away insulin for free. We're now, going to be lowering the cost of insulin or giving it away for free, essentially. And I think that actually caused their like stock to tank, which is fucking crazy and hilarious. But anyway, this pharmaceutical company that makes insulin had to come out and say, we apologize to those who have been served a misleading message from a fake Lilly account. Our official Twitter is @LilyPad. So they're basically like, oh no, we're actually not going to be giving away this life-saving drug for free. We're going to keep price gouging people that desperately need this drug to literally stay alive. That's what their statement boils down to. Also check out this. Is there a website for free insulin though? And they respond, we want to help. Please call this number to find out, like, if you want to help. Anyway, either way. So they said this, we apologize to those who have been served a misleading message because of the fact that Elon Musk made it so that anyone could post anything and appear to be verified. And, it led to all these hilarious parodies. Either way. Bernie Sanders, who of course has constantly championed lowering the price of insulin and has constantly criticized Big Pharma for price gouging its customers, posted, let's be clear, Eli Lilly should apologize for increasing the price of insulin by over 120,000% since 1,200%. Thank you, Zach. Since 1996 to $275, while it costs less than $10 to manufacture. The inventors of insulin sold their patents in 1923 for $1 to save lives, not to make Eli Lilly's CEO obscenely rich, which is an absolute base tweet from Bernie Sanders. Got a lot of likes. I mean, who doesn't hate Big Pharma, right? Absolutely disgusting, price gouging capitalist swine. But Elon Musk responded to this, and of course, Elon now owns Twitter and thinks his dumbass policies made that parody account possible in the first place, which did mislead, customers of Eli Lilly. Anyway, he responds and says, full answer to insulin price question is complex. Short answer is that original insulin, discovered in 1921, not 1923, is inexpensive, costing as little as $25. Now, higher efficacy analog variants of insulin are more expensive. So, coming in here to shit on Bernie Sanders and try to call out Bernie Sanders for making a populist statement in favor of Americans having to pay less for life-saving drugs, and Elon's like, "Oh, can't have that, can't have that."
Imagine simping for Big Pharma.
Right. Imagine simping for Big Pharma. It's crazy. It's absolute insanity. But the real kicker is right here on Elon Musk's own goddamn website. His own fucking website flagged this as misinformation and says some added context that readers might want to know. A RAND study in 2020 found that in the United States, the average price of a standard unit of insulin analog is $99.94, but in U.S. or non-US OECD countries, the average price is only $9. That's like 1/10 as cheap. So literally Elon Musk getting fact checked by his own fucking website for spreading misinformation about insulin. A feature, by the way, that Elon Musk was supposed to get rid of. Like, one of the reasons why he bought Twitter was to get rid of these petty fact checks. Like, I think the fact checks are pretty stupid myself. Like, if you post something that's like, actually, this is the reality. Like, oh, all right, okay. But it's funny that it got weaponized against the motherfucker himself, who was so butthurt about these fact checks in the first place, and who now literally runs the website.
Yeah, for sure. Although I do think that it's tough to be like, well, you can say whatever you want, but you can't have whatever name you want on the website. I do feel like I also think that they're a little annoying and clunky, but I think it is part of it. Like, the reason he's kept those around is because he's desperately trying to keep any kind of like advertisers that are willing to stay around. So it's like he's still trying to like play ball. Not that he's doing a very good job at all. I just think that that's why they're around. Like, personally, I was in the minority of people that was like, yeah, let anybody have a blue check for fucking $8. Like, this is fucking great. Like, I love not knowing if it's fucking like the real person tweeting to them. You got to have a little more media literacy. It's fucking based.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was I didn't think it was that bad of an idea, but I just didn't anticipate the amount of parodies that were going to pop up as a result. Because my original thought with the paying the $8 for the blue check, I was like, oh, well, okay, that kind of democratizes the process of getting the blue check and all that shit. But then you realize, like, well, the whole point of a blue check, it's not just like a status symbol. It's the point of a blue check is to be verified, so people know that a public figure is who they say they are, or so that they know a company is who they say they are. It's not just like this little fucking status symbol that you pay $8 for. Like, the point is that people know who you are. So people know you are who you say you are. And I'll show you the original tweet from Eli Lilly because it's fucking funny as shit. The fake tweet. They said we're excited to announce insulin is free now. And then check out what happened to their stock after that tweet.
Pretty fucking hilarious. And yeah, like, and I'm mostly like just joking. Like, obviously you're supposed to have some sort of like fucking credibility of like, you know, oh, this is the actual person. That way, because you know, we talk about the public square a lot, there's actually, you know, meaningful benefit to having somebody that's like the fucking president or like, you know, X, Y, or Z person be able to tweet and share their thoughts with the public. But I did just love the chaos and worship that chaos that was existing on the internet for like 5 days, because it was funny. Like, we talked about it, like Lance made the fake Dave Chappelle account. That was fucking hilarious. All kinds of just really funny stuff that came out of Twitter over those few days. But really quickly, just wanted to address this super chat from Ramium. Didn't you dudes support vaccine mandates? That's the ultimate example of sipping for pharma. No, we didn't support vaccine mandates. We did support people getting the vaccine. And I would say a more comparable example of that would be wanting people to get insulin is not the same thing as simping for big pharma. It's not like I want to keep people from getting their fucking insulin. No. I want them to have access to that insulin, and I want it to be free of the control of big pharma, just like I would have loved it if the vaccine was free of the control of big pharma. But yeah, no, Gavin, we're out here telling everybody that fucking the cops were going to come bait down their door at our request to fucking inject them with fucking fluids. Yeah, no, we never supported that. What I did say was, I don't give a fuck if you say, yeah, everybody that comes into this building has to be vaccinated if you own the building. That is your right to do, to say, I'm going to keep everybody safe here. I did support that. You know, that is,
yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, no, I personally never supported vaccine mandates. I am pro-vax. I took the vaccine. I have yet to turn into a cyborg or whatever the fuck. But no,
what are you talking about? Now you're questioning Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, but I never supported vaccine mandates. No, Ramian, I did not. But yeah, as Zach said, like I did think if you're a private fucking company like a concert venue or whatever, and during the height of the coronavirus, if you want to say, hey, like if you want to come to this concert just for the peace of mind and safety of our attendees, you have to present a vaccine card or whatever. Like that's fine. It's not your fucking human right to be able to go to a fucking concert. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's something I did say, but that's not a mandate. A mandate is like the government saying like you have to do this, or like criminalizing the refusal to take a vaccine, and that's never something that I supported. So no, we did not do that, Ramian, but appreciate the $10 regardless. Thank you so much.
Like, just to give another quick example, like the bar right across the street from Gavin and I's apartment, like you had to show your vaccine card to go in. Like that's not the same as like being a fucking government mandated vaccine. It was just like the staff did not want to work at a place where people could come in without the vaccine.
Right. And all those mandates have since been restricted. It's not like that was ever going to be like a permanent policy. It was like, yeah, this shit is going crazy right now. The pandemic is in full effect. And that was a decision that some businesses and private corporations made. So yeah, wait, do you say that someone's spamming in the chat again, Zach?
Yeah, just that Mario.
Oh, come on, Mario. Come on, Mario.
Mario, what in the fucking fuck? Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much, Rami, and really appreciate the comment. And hope we cleared that up for you, man. Thank you also, Alex, for the 199. The Mario middle finger was base. Yeah, that was another one of the funny fake Twitter accounts. Someone made like a fake Nintendo account and then like posted Mario flipping everyone off or whatever. That was pretty funny. There were so many. That was hilarious. That was a good couple days to be on Twitter. Probably the best days to be on Twitter since the Queen died. That was pretty funny too. But thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you, Alex. Always great seeing you in the chat. And yeah, the Mario shit was fucking hilarious. Do I play fantasy? I don't actually. I was just talking to my dad and my brother about this today. They're both hardcore fucking fantasy guys. My dad was bitching up a storm because he had Kadarius Toney, the guy whose name escaped me earlier. The wide receiver was like his first Chiefs game, and my dad had him on the bench for his fantasy instead of playing him. The guy had like a fucking touchdown and like a bunch of yards and receptions and all that kind of shit. So yeah, no, I don't. My brother is like massively into like the FanDuel and like all that kind of shit, where it's like the week by week kind of fantasy. So I've like helped him out with that or like gabbed with him about it while we're watching the game. But no, I don't really get into that too much.
Right. And before we get out of here, there's one more Elon Musk beef that we quickly need to discuss between Elon Musk just going to war with like progressive senators apparently on Twitter. So let's take a look at his little Twitter beef with Ed Markey. Ed Markey, who's a bit of a mixed bag. I think Ed Markey really is great on certain issues and definitely less great on others. But this was pretty funny. So Ed Markey tweets, Washington Post reporter was able to create a verified account impersonating me. I'm asking for answers from Elon Musk, who is putting profits over people and his debt over stopping disinformation. Twitter must explain how this happened and how to prevent it from happening again. So yeah, he's taking that shit seriously. Elon Musk responded and said, perhaps it is because your real account sounds like a parody. And then get down here. People for Bernie, which is a pro Bernie Sanders account, obviously, says probably not a great idea to troll a high-ranking senator with a history of taking down rich people who just so happen to sit on multiple committees which regulate your businesses the day after the party retakes the chamber. And one sec, guys. Sorry, I gotta find the reply or the retweet. Yeah, I know, but there's another one that I was gonna find. Anyway, are you suggesting the senator will abuse his political power to attack me? And then Ed Markey responded with a real fucking banger, guys. Sorry, I had to pull up the retweet. Responded to a real fucking banger because Elon says, well, I guess he responded to this tweet. He says, one of your companies is under an FTC consent decree. Auto Safety Watchdog NHTSA is investigating another for killing people, and you're spending your time picking fights online. Fix your companies or Congress will. Ooh, that's some energy I like to see. That's some energy I like to fucking see from a sitting senator.
Oh yeah, dude, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. Look, I'm not going to say that Ed Markey's never been cringy before. During the like Facebook committee hearings or whatever, he did reveal his age. So hopefully he's got some young, jubilant staffers that are ready to go to fucking rein in Elon Musk. And look, guys, here's the reality. I think it's so fucking crazy how like some people have like twisted their brain into thinking that Elon Musk is actually like standing up to like the establishment or whatever. Really what he's doing is he's just constantly manipulating the every loophole to gain wealth for himself, to fucking further enrich himself, to get government contracts, to do all this kind of stuff. He's so tied up with the US government, they could harangue him, bro. They could fucking really ruin his day. Start bringing up some antitrust legislation. And like, would it be politically motivated? Probably. But would it also still be based and I wouldn't give a fuck? Yes.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I like that energy, not fucking around. And Congress should fix the fucking companies. Like, do your goddamn role, Congress. Regulate these sons of bitches. This is unacceptable. Anyway, definitely some funny stuff. And yeah, definitely funny to see Elon taking fat L's, not only from Bernie Sanders, but Ed Markey. So I definitely thought that was pretty funny. Elon just loves getting owned on Twitter. He's such a fucking cringe lord. Also, thank you so much, Emogi, for the $5. People like Cedar and Vosh promote the idea that dim skeptics like Brianna Joy Gray are right-wing grifters. This narrative is false and hurts discourse. Thoughts? Yeah. That's 100% false, and it does hurt discourse. Yeah. The people that equate any criticism of the Democratic Party to like, oh, then that means you're a Republican. Like, no, it actually just means we're holding the Democrats to account because they suck and fail to be the progressive party of the people that they claim to be. That's not to say Brianna Joy Gray is above criticism. I'm sure people have made valid criticisms. We've, criticized her before. One time we literally debated her on our show. So I'm not saying I agree with her on everything, but yeah, to say that being skeptical of the Democrats or calling out the Democrats is in any way promoting right wingers is what's that, a logical fallacy? Is that the right word?
Yeah. Look, what it comes down to is like there are people who are right wing grifters on the internet. Who do make all of their content to be like, oh, like we call it the Rave Dubin approach to politics, where it's like, oh, I used to be a leftist, but then the left got so crazy. But that's so obviously not what Brianna Joy Gray is doing. Like her politics are still ardently leftist. Like I've never heard her come out and advocate for some weird right wing bullshit. If she did, I would be alarmed and pissed off. But I don't think that would happen. I think that she's demonstrated time and time again that she's a thorough leftist and that her concerns with the Democratic Party are not ones that would come from the right, but rather from a deep in the left of the perspective. So yeah, when people call her a fucking like right-wing grifter, like we call them out for it. Like Cenk Uygur did that. We made a whole video about it and we were like, hey, this is bullshit. Look at her history of X, Y, and Z. And like, okay, you can disagree with her take on this one issue without like, pretending that she's some sort of like, op.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Emogi. Really appreciate the $5. Anything else you wanted to chat about today, Zach?
No, I was curious if that was pronounced emoji, like the fucking thing, but anyway, it's fucking irrelevant. But yeah, peace out, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, y'all. And also, I think we forgot to. Did we shout out the patrons at the beginning of this episode? I think we might have forgot to shout out the patrons. Huge apologies to our patron community. Wow, we have betrayed you. Huge shout out to the patron community, extra big shout out to the patrons because we forgot to do it at the beginning of our live stream. Usually we like to shout out the patrons at the beginning and end of every single live stream. So this is what that is. Huge shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for the support. The link is going to be in the description. It's patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. And it's always going to be found in the description of all of our content. So hit that up if you enjoy our content and agree with our perspective, or if you disagree with our perspective, but still enjoy our content, feel free to still throw us a few bucks. Really helps out, genuinely does. It makes the show possible. We wouldn't be able to do it without the support of our patron community. There would be no Vanguard without the patrons. So whether you love us or hate us, you can thank the patrons for making the show possible. Thank you guys so much for the support. Hit up that link in the description, guys. Patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Even just a couple bucks a month really does go a long way. And we're 100% independent. We're viewer funded. We're 100% transparent with our funding. We're not taking some fucking billionaire bullshit money. We're keeping it real. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that like button as well. And hit up that link in the description, guys. Patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Become a supporter of independent left media. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Only you can save the world by giving us money. Only you can make the world a better place by making it easier for us to pay our rent. So, no, I'm kidding. Obviously, we really appreciate everybody that supports the show. Shout out to you.
Thank you guys so much for the support. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hit that like button as well on the way out. Appreciate you, Adrian. Thank you, Cassandra. So grateful for you two for being part of our audience. Thank you everyone that tuned in today. Really appreciate the fact that you enjoyed the stream. Thank you, Iana. And we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, and
Peace
shout
out.
out to Thanisa. You're also in contention for my favorite hate watcher of the day.
Yeah. We love the haters too. We really do.
Haters are my motivators.
Exactly. So yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll be back potentially tomorrow. Peace out.
Yep, the haters make us greater. Peace on out.